Before she passed away, she told me, everything you did, I felt was my success. You made me successful. That was her goodbye to me. I feel that everything I've done was because of her and for her recognizing it in her deathbed. I've reached that pinnacle of success. When you're 7 and your sister's 13, she's telling you, don't cause trouble, do the right things. You need to be some child that everyone can say is a good child, especially because your parents are not living with you. You don't want to embarrass them. You want them to be proud of you. That's ingrained in you when you're 7 years old. So I ran away from home. My sweet 16 was in a clapboard house, a little apartment complex that I paid $175 a month, working 3, sometimes 4 jobs. I went back home right before I turned 17. Now, in my position, when I'm giving money to nonprofits, or I'm doing pro bono work to the triage center for the people who are drug addicted, or the foster children for the older youth who can't be placed because they're just hard, I see them because I walk their walk. I see immigrants. I see the FOBs. I was one of them. I got to go to Atlanta, my first business trip. There was one room just filled with people. And they say it was about affordable housing. And my hair's rising. And then I'm hearing the same buzz that I heard when I was 16. Don't be afraid, it's me. And then tears are welling down my eyes. And I'm praying, dear God, what do you want me to hear? And it came to me, I am doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. I am building communities, I'm building housing. And whatever I do, it's gonna lead me to building affordable housing somewhere. This is gonna be my life's work.
Greater Good Radio, connect, learn, heal, and grow, is brought to you by Brain Gain Hawaiʻi, a boutique executive recruiting, career development, and coaching firm. Learn more at braingainhi.com. Welcome to Greater Good Radio. Today we're here with Christine Camp, the founder of Avalon Development and a longtime friend and mentor. Thanks for coming, Christine.
So I find a lot of people have researched me before they come and see me for an interview or to do a business or something, and they've heard a clip of
ours, yeah.
Like there's like 4 parts or something. They've read or at least read the transcript for PBS, so there's been enough out there. Like the people know that I ran away from home, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of tidbits that people have known. And so you are who you are through your experiences, but what makes you you is the decisions you make along the way.
So with that in mind then, who are you that has never changed throughout all of those years?
Gee, I see why you say that people have Kleenex and they start looking. Because when you ask a question like that, then you think about, who is that that's talking to me in my head?
It's not even the who's talking to you in your head. It's more the what emanates from your gut or from your heart.
Right.
I'm not talking about your head. Your head has been super, super productive for your whole life. I'm not talking about that.
But you remember René Descartes, right? I mean, if you ever read philosophy, that's I think, therefore I am, right? I mean, he's going through a series of things in his head. So who's doing this thinking and who am I? Like you're going through the cathartic experience of trying to figure out who are you?
Yeah.
And then say, I am who I am because I'm thinking, right? I am who I am because there's some voice in my head that's thinking, that's who I am.
Maybe not.
I am.
Maybe not.
Yeah. So
because that's just what you tell yourself, or that part of you in your head that's
right.
telling yourself. But think about this one, right? How many times you ever had it where your gut or your heart said, this is the way you like it, this felt right, and your head talks you out of it because of whatever's, and then it goes extremely wrong?
I think people become who they are, at least my numerous conversations with the people closest to me. Mm-hmm. And who we define ourselves to be or what guides us. Really, because that's who you are, right? What guides you? What's the moral compass? What's that compass that guides you? And I think about that girl waiting to come to America when our parents were here. And my sister, who was raising us, she dropped out of high school.
Oh, so your parents moved first?
Because in those days, you had to make sure that you could sponsor your children to come here and that you needed to have a home and a job. This is in the 70s. So
both of them left first?
Yeah, both of them left first, and then there were 5 kids left behind, and we lived with our relatives who, they were trying to survive on their own, and they weren't taking very good care of us. And so my sister, who was 13, She dropped out of middle school to raise us. And she wanted to make sure that we wanted for naught. And so she cooked meals every day. She washed her clothes.
She worked?
She, of course not. I mean, my mother and father sent money every month. It wasn't getting to us when it went through our relatives. But she wrote to our parents and they sent it directly to her. And she went to the bank to make sure that money came to us. So it was a whole year of starvation and, being not in the best situation, to a year and a half, almost 2 years of being raised by her, being fed and clothed by her, and giving us the moral compass to be who we should be, so that when we went to America to meet our parents again, that we were good children.
You're the second oldest?
No, I am number 4 out of number 5. My brother passed away, youngest. And
Back then he passed,
when he was about 9 years ago.
Oh, recently,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
But he was the youngest. There were 4 kids. I'm number 4. But my sister, number 2, she dropped out of middle school and took care of us so that we had a moral compass. We had, hot cooked meals, that we were clothed and properly fed and, washed and all those things. So when I think about who am I, where's that moral compass coming from? It's that little girl who wanted to make sure she was worthy of the parents who sacrificed so much for us, and for the sister who sacrificed everything for us.
What was your life like before that, before your parents moved? Or was that the earliest you can remember?
I don't know. I was too young to be cognizant, but then I grew up really fast. When you realize that you're watching every movement because you needed to be worthy of others' acceptance and didn't want to make trouble. You wanted to do everything right.
Can I ask that? So, that piece of I want to be worthy, right? So that is a core piece for any high-producing person, which is typically like, something is wrong with me, I'm unworthy, I might be defective, I have to prove that I'm not, right? Or I'm going to show everyone that I'm not, and one way is to accomplish. But where does that come from, though? Was it somebody saying that, or was it you just coming up with, where does that come from?
Well, first you're 7 years old and you feel like you're an abandoned child because we're your parents and, no one's taking care of you. Then your sister comes into your life and all of a sudden she's the parent and she's telling you.
She's only a little bit older.
Right. I mean, but when you're 7 and
Yeah.
your sister's 13,
Yep.
she's an adult. And she's telling you, don't cause trouble, do the right things. You need to be some child that everyone can say is a good child. Especially because your parents are not living with you. You need to be good. You need to study hard.
You might not be taken care of or something.
Because otherwise your parents were sacrificing everything for you. They're going to be embarrassed about you. You don't want to embarrass them. You want them to be proud of you. You want all their sacrifices to mean something. That's ingrained in you when you're 7 years old, right? So my first cognizant thought is, I've got to be the best. I've got to do best. I have to be a good girl. I have to do things before being asked. I need to make sure I understand my surroundings and quickly pick up what's expected of me. Understand what's expected before it's been told to you. So who am I except that little girl? So when it comes to, who are you? Even in over 50, right? You're not the same when you're 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50. Who am I? That core is when I came to awareness. And that awareness of my surroundings came when my sister told me, you need to be this or everyone's going to be embarrassed. You need to do this because all the sacrifices I'm making for you and your parents are making for you would be for naught.
Okay. So I hear that piece, right? Which is you're obligated and don't bring dishonor to this family and
Dishonor.
so on, right?
Right.
But if you took away that more or less moral judgment and obligation on that, you put that on the side. You can still be here. That's on the side. If you took that away, then who are you?
how can you take something
No,
away
take
that's
it
been
away.
so ingrained,
You
right?
put it on the side right now. It's
Yeah.
put into somewhere where it's still there. Yes, it's still, you can hold on to it or whatever, but it's going to take a little breather. It's like a little time.
Right. I took a breather from that. I ran away from home. I said, forget that. Forget this, obey the family, for obey the parents, do everything that is expected of you. I ran away from home and lived on my own when I was 15. My sweet 16 was in a clapboard house.
What is that?
It was what I called,
Apartment or something?
yeah, a little apartment complex that I paid $175 a month, working, three, sometimes four jobs, depending. When you're a part timer, you ask for
Yeah.
your hours. So I worked at Ritz, I worked at Sears, I worked at Liberty House, and I worked at this hamburger stand at Kuhio Beach. And I went to school and I was a cheerleader. So, I ran away from home when I was 15. I went back home right before I turned 17. I did that because I was so sick and tired of this obey, who do you know what I did to sacrifice for you? I was so sick and tired of that. I'm an American child. I'm doing good. Enough of that, obey the parents, obey the sister, feel obligated.
Yeah.
And I had that freedom. And when I had to put food on the table for myself and pay for the roof over my head and, stealing utilities from other units because I couldn't afford the utilities, turn on charges, like when you start your account, you have to put a deposit. I didn't have the deposit. So when you had to pay for your own way, you realize what all those sacrifices meant. You realize how privileged I was to have food on the table every day, every meal. How privileged it was for me to have a roof over my head. And so who am I? I was a survivor. Who am I? I was a survivor who knew what should be done, who knew who to appreciate and what to appreciate. And then it became a person that did the right things for the right reasons, not because of obligation, but because I knew that, all these sacrifices meant it translated to they sacrificed because they loved you. And it was driven by love.
When did you come to that conclusion?
When I came back home. So I didn't come back on my
I
own.
mean, they came and got you?
No. My father had passed away already. So she was a single mom with 5 kids, working as many jobs as I was.
So he passed away kind of early?
He passed away within a year and a few months after we arrived here. He brought all the children and didn't tell anyone that he was dying of cancer. And he died.
Just all of a sudden?
All of a sudden. So I didn't really get a chance to bond, when after I was a child, right? Like when you're a child, you don't understand, right? Play and all that. And then you become a little bit of a aware child that understands what things are. Then you come here, you finally think, oh my God, paradise. Oh my God, my parents. I'm a child with parents. And, I'm a child living with parents and living in America where dreams are possible. They had told us, money grows on trees in America. Anything is possible. You think it, you do it, you work hard, you become American, and the world's your oyster. That was ingrained in me. And I came to America and my father passed away. Right. And, I was FOB where everyone was teasing me. So that was a different thing. But, going back to when I was a runaway and, trying to prove to my mom that I don't need you guys. I can do it on my own. I'm smart enough. I can do this. And then really suffering along the way and seeing how everybody else was suffering. When you're poor and you have other people who don't support you, you become a teenage mom with 2 kids, or 1 child and 1 kid on the way because that paid for their rent, their welfare. Oh. The more children you had, you could pay for more things. So she actually wanted another child, even though she was 16 and had a child. And she was 17 having a second child, pregnant. Another woman who by the end of the month, she was always eating cat food because she ran out of food. And she had, I don't know how many cats she had. And
like dried cat food or the kind of the
canned cat foods.
Oh.
And then there was a prostitute with 2 young children, an 8-year-old and a 3-year-old. They were raising themselves because she was
It's
out.
like Section 8 housing or something like.
No, it was just a very poor area. It was in Kaimuki actually, but it was tucked away and it was illegally, separated into apartment sections. It was a big old schoolhouse or something like that. And there were 6 units. And I was in one of them and I knew my neighbors. But there was another person who was dying of cancer and you could hear them coughing every night and all that. Then there were college students who rode their bikes, clean, always happy. Everybody else in that whole compartment where they were not happy, they were drunk, they were, I don't know, it's pandemonium where there are kids roaming around. And then you had these clean cut kids who rode their bike. They were always happy, pleasant. They were just as poor as the rest of us, but something about them was different. And I didn't understand it, I didn't know how to put it together, what that difference was. But you see it, you kind of absorb that. But one day, this 3-year-old was turning, she was a 2-year-old becoming 3. So I was going to bake a cake, bought this cake mix and was going to bake it and realized that this was a pilot lit gas stove and it wasn't on. So I thought, oh yeah, need a match to light it up, borrowed a match from next door, and lit it up and it blew up on my face.
So you got burned?
I got burned, singed, so singed and my eyebrows and my hair burnt through the front of my face. So they called emergency and the emergency asked where my parents were because I was underage. I wasn't yet 17 and I realized, gee, I need to go home.
Did they call your parents?
No,
Or
they
did
didn't.
they call your mom? No?
I called my sister
Oh.
and she said, come home. One of my sisters was home and she said, come home. And then, they had this ice and there was like all these things going on. And they filled the tub with ice and water and just splashing me with ice and water. And this whole flurry of activities were going on. And all I could see was those young kids. And in my head, I need to go home. I need my mom. I need to be at home. And then I thought about those kids. They probably have parents. And somehow in my mind, I said, why are they so different? Because they probably have parents who care about them. That's why they're happy. Then I thought, no, because they're going to school. And they know their life is not going to be stuck here. They know they're going to graduate from college. And their life is not going to be stuck here. That difference. And I didn't have it in my head, but it's, I need to go to school. And I equated that with hope.
Mm-hmm.
The people who lived in my complex, people without hope, they relegated their life to whatever was in front of them. They weren't aspiring for something greater. Those kids, they were happy because whatever was in front of them then, it was on their way too. It was hope. They had hope. And their hope was education. And in Newman, I had this aha moment, like, I need to go home. I need to go home to my mom. I need education. I need to go to college.
Were you going to school at the time?
I was going to school and I was working on trying to graduate because, I was a bright student and I had gone to summer schools and I finished all that was needed. So I didn't really need to go to school after the first semester in my junior year. So I was telling them, give me my diploma. And they said, well, you're not 18. So you either need to be 18 or you need to stay in school till you're 18, or you can go to an accredited college. And when you show us that you're registering, then you can get your diploma. So I was going through that process when this happened. Then I decided that I'm going to go home. So, the emergency told me, thank goodness you didn't have a lot of burn, superficial burn. You're going to have some peeling, but nothing through the skin and everything. So,
And nothing to your eyesight?
No, and I didn't affect any of it. Just cinched eyebrows. So I had no eyebrows, no lashes, and parts of my bangs were gone. So I packed up my pillowcase in which I came to this place, packed up my measly belongings, gave away whatever I had, including my bag of potatoes that I had bought for my hot meals at night, and my little jug of soy sauce that I used to flavor that hot potato that I boiled every night for my hot meal when I wasn't working. Then I went home. I walked home because I didn't have money for the bus. And we lived on Malia Street, which is in Ainakoa, and I lived on near 6th Avenue, between 6th and 7th on Harding Avenue. So I walked home with my little pillowcase and walked up the stairs to my house, and nobody was there, or nobody seemed to be there. But on the table was a red basket of home fried chicken. It was my favorite. I sat there and ate the entire bucket of chicken, and I fell asleep. Saw my mom folding the laundry when I woke up. She never had an off day. She never folded the laundry because she never took days off. She worked 7 days a week. And I think she took off because I was home. I felt a lot of love.
Did she say anything, or she just was there?
She didn't say anything. She said, "Did you eat the chicken? You might want to go downstairs." I went downstairs under the house. And she had built this little studio for me in hopes that I would come back home. Gosh, you're right. Yeah. She made it herself, put the foundation herself. So, the concrete was uneven. It was illegal. It wasn't
She
permitted.
poured a slab.
There was a bathroom that was like a half a bath, so just a toilet when I left. But she put in a shower. She jerry-rigged the shower, and somebody must have put it in. And then she poured the slab, built these walls over the year and a half that I was gone. And that was my little studio. So it was too short to be a legal house because it was about 6 feet tall. So it was just tall enough for me because, I was 5'2" then. But it was a place that I could call my own. And she said, "Oh, that's where you should sleep."
So the whole time you're gone, she was building it.
Yeah. She was.
That's kind of beautiful, actually.
She never once said anything. And she never asked me for rent or anything. But I helped pay for her mortgage. She didn't have to ask because I knew that it wasn't obligation. It was love. It was love. Heaven, oh my goodness. Cathartic, oh my God. I talked about so many things. I'm not going to cry. And here I am talking about my mother. That love is so strong. She didn't say anything. She wasn't one of those people who hugged you. But boy, having gone through my own hardship of working those jobs and going to school, I realized how hard it was for her. And she didn't have to ask. I took a full-time job, enrolled in community college. So I dropped out quickly because community college would have taken too long to get a degree. And I wanted to get a degree as quickly as possible. So there was something called Cannon's Business College and computer programming. So I went into computer programming, which they promised me I could get a degree in 18 months. So I, applied for that and worked full time and helped pay for my mom's mortgage.
During that time?
During that time.
What kind of work was your mom doing?
So she had a bar that she was running by the time.
So that's like 24/7 then.
Yeah, but she also had a job as a waitress. So she worked that she opened at 4 p.m. I guess, some people opened at 2:30 or 3 p.m. for her. And she would go there by 4 and come home by 2. But then she also worked as a waitress in places, where she would wait on tables. She would come home at 2, take a nap, wake up, greet us, and give us our lunch money when we were growing up from the coins that she had from her tip. And then she would go to her next job. And she had several of those jobs. It wasn't a steady gig, like whoever could. She was filler for different people. She was always worried that there wouldn't be enough money to buy toilet paper or Spam or eggs or rice. Those were the 3 things that she always worried about for some reason. And she worked 7 days a week. She had many different businesses along the way before she owned the bar. She would go to the bakery and buy day-old bread and sell it in a storefront, day-old bread. Then that didn't work out well. And then she had a Q hall or pool hall, right? It's a pool hall. We used to call it Q hall, but it was pool hall. And that didn't go well. So, through when I was younger, I would see her start these businesses, work these odd jobs where she could get her jobs and then support those businesses because they weren't making any money and she had to pay rent. And so she failed more often than not, but she always kept trying. I didn't appreciate that. It's like, there it goes again. She doesn't know what she's doing. She can't speak English, all that kind of stuff. She used to use us as a translator. We hated that. We were so embarrassed and all that kind of stuff. But by the time I came home when I was 17, I was begging her landlords to extend her leases and trying to review her documents. I didn't know what I was doing, but I tried as best as I could.
So what was something that you learned like later in your life about your mom that completely changed your perspective?
Well, I think my perspective changed back then.
Yeah. Because, parents like that, I don't know your mother, but they don't talk about stuff, right?
Oh no.
So it's like, was there ever anything that kind of slipped out later in life that they're like, oh wow, this gives me great context into why you did these things and so on, and now my, maybe whatever, it could be resentment or whatever, it's like completely changed because I didn't understand it like that.
Well, when I came home and eating the bucket of chicken, that was my aha moment for a while. My mom would love me. Everything she did was for me, kind of thing. That it was very hard for her. That eating that chicken, how expensive that must have been for her. It sunk back then. But what touched me in her nursing home, she came and went. She wasn't as cognizant as she should be on things. But every time I would come to visit her, everybody said, oh, Christine, your mom is so proud of you. Every time she comes to, she talks about you. And then I would sit with her and she wouldn't even recognize me half the time. But before she passed away, I held her hand and we're talking, and I was always talking about the old days. And she told me, you're my favorite daughter. Everything you did, I felt was my success. You were Miss Korea. It made me so proud. You owned your own business. I was so scared for you because I thought you were going to fail. But you're so successful. You went to Castle and Cook. I was scared for you because you wouldn't be good enough. You didn't have the education. But you succeeded. You made me successful. And I'm so proud of you. That was my most cognizant conversation I had with her in probably 3 or 4 years. And I held her hand. I remember it being so cold. I said, Mom, don't die tonight, because I want you to be here to share that with my son. And she went back to sleep. I went home. Then I got a call, which I missed. I missed that call at midnight. 6 a.m, I called the nurse back, and she said, your mother passed away at midnight. And we were trying to call you and couldn't find you. And in the Kalanui nursing home, they have a policy that if you have 3 hours, no one to claim, then they had to send them to the morgue. That was her goodbye to me. I didn't realize it. But I feel very successful because for her, I feel that everything I've done was because of her and for her. And for her recognizing it in her deathbed, my dreams have come true. I'm fully actualized. I've reached that pinnacle of success. But this is not me. You will never see me like this. But I guess this is me. You just asked that one question, who are you, Christine Camp? And here I am talking about my mother and my last conversation with her.
The thing I appreciate is that that's what's real.
Yeah, yes. My mother passed away in April of this year. This must have been my goodbye to her. This conversation, I never had it with anyone. You just brought it out of me. You just brought it out of me. Thank you.
I appreciate you sharing that with me.
Yeah, so I guess that's who I am. Somebody who achieved to make my mother happy, and in its process discovered who I am and what's important. And that's who I am, is seeking the love of my family, finding that is what is the most important.
I cannot help but see it a little bit differently. Can I share that? Or
Sure.
Yeah. Because although I see like what you had to go through, and then, the desire and then the skills that come around that and show externally, I cannot help but just still see like a young girl that just wants love. You know what I mean? And will do whatever is needed to get that, just because that's what we deserve. And that's, I think, what I was asking kind of
You mean
initially.
like love, like external validation?
No, validation is separate. Validation is a strategy still for love, right? I'm saying love. And this love, and not like romantic love, it's just that pure acceptance and I don't know how to say it, it's just love. You know what I'm saying? It's like you to know that you are worthy of it, regardless of anything that you do. Yeah. I think more like that.
Yeah, I think so. I do these presentations now because people have asked me to share my vision for downtown, for example, because
Yeah.
we're trying to redevelop downtown, and what drove me. And then some of them say, and in doing that, share a little bit about yourself, right? And always I end with, why are we doing what we're doing? And then, what is most important? Then my last slide is a picture of my family or the picture of a beautiful sunset outside of my window. And the reason why I say that is, everything you do, everything anyone does, right? But especially for me, and I can speak for myself, is that ultimately you say, well, why are you trying so hard? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing, downtown? And why are you trying to work so hard all the time? Why are you trying to do this deal? And why is that success important to you? Why are you trying to make that money? Yada, 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 all the way through. I'm doing downtown because I can, and I know I'm confident that I can make it happen. Two, I'm doing downtown because I want my son and his children to experience the Hawaii and experience the downtown that I experienced and that they deserve to have. And then, what are you trying to achieve? Well, and then, I'm also doing that because I want to make money for the people who work for me, who sacrifice so hard. I'm doing this so that I can make some money, so that I can make sure that I can carve out a good future and stability for my family and those who I love, and for their safety and for their health, and ultimately for my health. Because if they're happy and healthy and I'm happy and healthy, then we have time to love and give love. So it ultimately comes down to happiness and serenity. It just sounds like, yeah, that's what everybody says. But if you are lucky enough to live a life, and if you're lucky enough to discuss that, and lucky enough to be able to have that, then that's a life well lived.
Can I ask? You don't have to answer this one either. But when we did the initial interview 20 something years ago or whatever it was, right? We look in the picture. I said 30 pounds ago for me. It was,
When was that? Was it 2005 or so?
it was around there.
So,
right? It was
so 20 years ago.
right, and that was during a period where I remember you were very hard charging, and it was like the youngest chairperson for the Chamber of Commerce, and this whole boom, 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 boom. I remember the quote because actually, it's somewhere along, which is as a businesswoman, you have to make the decision if you're gonna have kids or not, and my decision is not at that time. When did that change, and how did that change?
So we're ultimately biologically human.
Yes.
So you
Yes.
can will yourself to be one, or you can allow your biology to speak to you. And everyone said, wait till you're around 40 and you're going to want to be a mom. I said, no, because I'm really focused on career building and empire building.
Did you not want to be a mother
I
initially?
didn't.
Or was it I have a focus so that I can't do that right now?
No, I didn't want
it was
to
I
be a
don't want
mom.
to. So what changed your mind?
So, when people have milestone birthdays or New Year's, you set resolutions, or when you have milestone birthdays, you set goals for yourself. I want these things for my life. So by the time, I had turned 40, I realized that, I was achieving the financial success. I was thinking, if I could make $1 million, if I could make $10 million and what have you, I was achieving financial success. And I was looking at, okay, all this, what's next? And I really looked around and I looked at my friends, colleagues, and they were all having families or, they've had children. And I saw how rich their lives were, living in chaos, but how rich their lives were, and found that being envious. And something in me every day, I felt the sadness. I could achieve financial success, but I wasn't achieving the success as a woman, which that experience could possibly include motherhood. And so more and more I was thinking about that, and I decided to become a mom. So then, I became a mom the following year. So I gave birth right before I turned 41, and, my son is 17, so you can do the math. But I've never regretted it. it has been. And, some women can't have children. And so, I'm not saying that everyone doesn't live a full life without children. That's not what I'm saying. For me, there was a calling. For me, I looked around and I realized that my mother made such an impact for me. I really wanted to have a child that could live the next generation, the fruits of the generation's success, right? My mother's fruit of her sacrifice were her children, and their success is for the next gen. And what was it for me? Does it stop with me? And I really wanted to experience motherhood. It was so joyous. The entire pregnancy was joyous. I did not have not one morning sickness. Having him was a joyous moment. I had a village. My mother, my sisters, they all rallied to help raise my child so that I could continue to have, my cake and eat it too, in the sense that I had my child and I was working on my business and my career. And I don't think I missed a beat.
So in the 17 years, because raising kids is hard. I mean, right. Your son and my daughter, they're same class and stuff,
same,
right?
yeah,
So,
they're
I
friends.
mean, raising kids is hard. Is there anything that you would have adjusted if you could go back and adjust?
Yeah, I mean, to any child, no parent is perfect. And so my child believes that during COVID, he raised himself because I went to work. I wanted to bring him to work, but he didn't want to. And he had online distance learning.
Which was lame.
Oh,
I
it
gotta
was
tell you.
lame. And he told us, I don't want to be at your office. I want to be here doing my own thing. I don't want to go and stay with family during or sitters or whatever it may be. So he was home most of the days by himself. I thought we did a pretty good job of coming home, my husband and I, and my sisters and what have you, looking in on him. But he feels he was abandoned. So if there was any time that I wish I could have gone back, it was sixth grade, so it was preteen, and I wish that I had spent more time at home during that time to bond better with him because he was on his own. So I do have that regret as a parent, but he is an amazing child. I am so lucky that he's self-motivated, he's kind and generous to his friends. If I could do it again, I think he had wanted siblings.
So this part right here, typically when we're talking, is an opportunity to let him know what you may not be able to let him know in person.
The Tony Stark moment.
More or less, right? Which is,
Yeah.
stuff you didn't know. Like when you came home and your mom didn't say anything except she said it through her actions really loud and clear, which was, I've been waiting for you to come home, preparing for you to come home. I spent every minute and so on, and this is how I can show you. But right now I cannot say it because all the shit that I've been through, right? It's like that.
Oh, because my mother was who she was, I think that I don't hold back in telling him how proud I am of him. My mother never did.
So what would be something that maybe you've never said to him, but would like to, and like for him to really get?
I wish that he would understand how much he is like me, that any differences that we have is because we're so alike. And he says that I don't know how to say sorry to him. Only if he would know how sorry I am when I do argue with him, how sorry I am that we're not closer. I wish we were closer. But, we, as a parent, we have to respect our children, and I respect his individuality. I admire his intellect. I admire his generosity to his friends, and I only wish for him that he would become a great human being and that he will one day see that he is a special person who I love deeply. And a lot of the things that I do for him.
So what would be a memory you can think of with your son that where you really saw like, wow, he's special?
There's so many moments where I think he's so special. I don't know. I mean, I see him every day. A friend of mine told me, "You're such an unusual mother because you talk about your child as if you're not related to him." I critique everything about him, notice all of his flaws as well as his strengths. I know what he's going to say before he even says them. He is a very special child. And I know that he's a special person because I never once had to tell him, "You need to do your homework," or "practice your piano or your viola," or "Did you finish your project?" Because he did them before I ever asked. In fact, I always have to tell him, "If you did your best, that's all I ask of you. You don't have to lament anything you've done, as long as you've done your best. That's all I ask of you." So, is he a special child? Yes, because he's harder on himself than I am with him. So the thing that I can do for him is to let him know that's all I ask. And you can allow yourself some slack.
So how about a memory that would give or that would show clearly that he's worthy of love regardless of any accomplishment or trying or anything like that? Something that shows that. Where there's no having to do something to be worthy of anything. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Jeez, you stumped me there.
Just take your time.
Because we try not to ask anything of him. We want him to do what he wants to do when he wants to do them. He was a self-motivated child from when he was 2 years old. He scolded himself before I scolded him. We do have disagreements.
The thing I'm trying to get to
Yeah.
is that when we're a child, all we want is the love of our parents. We'll do anything to get that. Because realistically, without it, we're dead. If you were in Korea at that time, your parents left, you're with your family and so on. If they ever deem you as not valuable and don't take care of you any longer, you're pretty much dead, right? And that's where it becomes, something's wrong with me. I need to do something about this. Because our brain's not developed enough to say like, "Oh, this is my situation." And, "Oh, I live with relatives, but they're kind of doing their own thing." And, "Oh, my parents are having an issue." No. Well, all we know is, I got a problem. It's my fault. I'm bad. So what do I need to do to get out of this? And then the strategies come. And then the better we get at those strategies to get the external validation, then that can calm down a bit or so on. So what happens is that as a child, like at that age, what I'm getting at is what could be shared like in a moment or something that would truly demonstrate that, hey, you're worthy of love regardless of your effort, regardless of you doing anything. It's just your being, like unconditional.
We tell him that every day because he's such a high achiever. We have to tell him, stop achieving. You don't have to get 1,500 for every test you're taking, right? You don't need to be number one on everything you're doing. Just do your best. We tell him that. It's fine. So we're reminding him, our love for you doesn't depend on you doing any of this. But for somehow, he's so focused on achievement. So I don't know how to answer that because I have this child who is so tough on himself. And we have to remind him constantly, that's okay. Oh, you got a B on that test? That's okay. It's your first B ever,
I think the kids, they watch us, right? With the same way we
Yeah.
watched our parents. You watched your mom work 24/7, sacrifice everything under the sun, no matter what. That was your example. And then if you look at it and you go, "Oh, I'm kind of doing a similar thing," right?
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. Like I was outside over there and I was watching my oldest son yell at my youngest daughter, right? He was yelling at her and I went, "Oh, you sound like your gung," which was my dad. I said, "You sound just like your gung." And then Coco, who you know is my second boy, goes, "No, he doesn't." And I was like, "Yeah?" He goes, "He sounds like you." And I went, "Holy cow,
Yeah.
you're freaking right." Was my dad's voice like that? With me? And then now it's him. And it becomes, it doesn't matter what I say to him. It only matters what I'm doing. And what happens here is that it becomes, if I see something in them that they can't let go of, it's what in me can I not let go of, right? Can I really tell them, "Hey, you don't have to do all these things. but it's still applicable for me, that doesn't work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The hard thing on that, and I know the feeling too, is because like my daughter, who is classmates with your son, she categorizes it, and it goes back and forth. Like before I did a lot of kind of personal work on myself, she would say, that's old dad and this is new dad. So old dad is the one that's laughing at my son yelling, but I'm the guy yelling, right? And then the new dad is kind of what you're seeing during when I can sit here and hold space while you're sharing your story. The old dad would try to fix that thing in about 10 seconds or 1 second. So as we go back and forth, what I'm realizing is that it's how do we regain connection? Then discussions can happen, not the opposite way around. It don't work that way.
You know what? There's something to it. He told me, and we were laughing about it, because we're so alike. Our personalities, he's a type A, I'm a type A, you know, that kind of thing. We're so alike, we don't agree on a lot of things. And then
On a lot of strategies.
Yeah. And then so one day he said, Mom, you know what I wish? I said, what? I thought it would be something profound. He said, I wish that you had me when you were much younger. And I said, oh, well, you know, I wasn't ready for you then. You know, when I had you, that's when I was ready for you. And he said, it's because you're so old, you're going through the hormonal changes while I'm going through my hormonal changes. And that's why we're not getting along.
You know what I heard in that statement? So if you take every statement as a please or a thank you,
Yeah.
what I heard in that statement was, Mom, I wish we could just connect without stuff getting in the way. That's the please I heard in that.
You're right. I mean, that's kind of what he was saying.
The thing I remembered is that my dad and my mom would both tell us, mostly my dad, he would say, just want to let you know. So it's pretty explicit that we're not going to tell you we love you and we're proud of you. And this is from as far as I can remember back. We're not going to ever tell you we love you and we're proud of you. We don't hug. We don't do that kind of mushy emotional stuff. But when you need us, we will be there, and actions speak louder than words. So for my whole life, it was all about what can I accomplish or do or prove to kind of get, that was the representation of love, right? But the thing I didn't realize too is that conflict, I just realized this recently, is that I would find myself in conflicts a lot. And when I wasn't in conflict, I would create a conflict. And I know that now when I look back at his conflict, and I'm not talking about like my parents' conflict with each other, I'm talking about like just, I got a conflict with somebody or whatever. Or so, and that was when my dad was locked in. He was there. He was attentive. To me, that became like, realistically, conflict is love and conflict is connection. So I would create it. And that was our way of connecting.
Because then you had your focused
Yeah,
attention.
he's focused. Other than that, no, I'm going to go golfing, do something else, whatever. Didn't have a phone because he couldn't use a phone to save his life. But, you know, but he was still distracted with work and other things or so on. But no. Once there's a conflict, boom, dude's locked in. That's where I would feel loved. And I noticed that after he's passed, I don't create that anywhere near as much. And I don't mind conflicts. So it's interesting to see, like, well, what are the strategies being used unconsciously to create either connection or love that maybe in the past could work, but now don't? That's what I constantly think about. Yeah.
I think there's a lot to that,
Yeah.
really.
So the interesting thing I see too is that, and something I learned painfully along the way, is that whatever I can't accept about somebody else or whatever is going to trigger me on somebody else is something that I am not allowing myself in myself, or I'm fighting it with internally into myself. So I can't be like, oh, you know, Christine is this, so oh my gosh, without being like, oh, if I ever get like that, then it's the exact same kind of reaction. So what I realize is that if I'm going to have to adjust something on the external, I actually have to adjust it on the internal first, which sucks. But that's just, I mean, that's just kind of how it goes, I think. But there's nothing like a child to remind you of that, right? Because it's like your heart outside your body.
When you're at a point where you think you're invincible, there's nothing like a child who can bring you back down to reality. This is real. Mom, feed me. Where's my next meal? I wake up at 5 a.m, so I rush around to make sure I have a hot breakfast for him, because he's one of those children who don't want cold breakfast. He won't eat it. He wants a hot breakfast every morning It has to have rice in it every morning.
You know, when you said that you see that your son is kind and generous, can you share a story about that? Like when you noticed that?
So we went to Paris for a tennis program for him. And there was a friend or one of the other students who were going to have the same tennis program. The parents couldn't come to, so they asked us if we could fly with her. So we arranged the flights. But I mean, we're going to Paris, and so we went first class. When you go first class internationally, you go to the first class lounge where you have the sleep booths, right? So you can shower and sleep and all that. So we were going to do that. And we paid for him and for us and all of that to have that. So this was in New York. So from here to New York and New York to Paris. He refused. He refused to be in that lounge. He refused to sit in first class because he didn't want to leave her behind and make her feel bad.
Oh, wow.
So he gave up his seats, he gave up his lounge, he gave up, all that to be with her. Didn't know her. He had just met her because, it was this program that he was going to. Those parents found me, another Hawaii family. But that's kind of who he is. We used to give these huge parties for him, only because I love parties and I always wanted to do it because, he's my only child. So I'm throwing like all these theme parties, things that I always wanted when I was a child, right? The theme parties, 100 people coming, like 50 kids invited, all the parents. And we used to do that. And then when he was old enough, he said, Mom, I don't want these parties. In fact, I don't want big parties. I said, why? Because I think it's too showy and my friends can't afford to do these things. The kids I hang out with, they're not this kind of people. I just want to have them come over. Let's just do low key, take us to CPK, and then let's play games, and that's it. I don't want these big parties. And the reason why he didn't want them was he didn't want the kids who couldn't afford these parties to feel bad, because he had heard after one of these parties, those kids talking about it, how they couldn't afford to do it, and their parents couldn't do it, or whatever it was. Whatever kids talk about, it affected him deeply. And I think of that as my child, and I think, oh, that's fantastic. He's compassionate about the kids around him. Same thing, like he doesn't want me to say certain things, or, we don't think anything about eating out every night because I don't cook. And then, we'll go out to sit down restaurants or something only because we can. And sometimes I just want to eat a good food that's not fast food or anything like that. So maybe 3 or 4 nights a week we're eating out. And then we had friends that stayed in 3 or 4 nights sometimes during the summer. And they'll be eating out every time. And he would say, Mom, please, let's not do that. Because I don't want him to feel bad when he goes home, that he's not doing that at his home. Things like that is very important to him. That makes me feel that he's empathetic towards other kids.
So if you had to say, the thing I appreciate most about my son is?
He thinks about his friends. It's others. I mean, there are really 2 things. One is that he really does care about his friends, maybe because he's the only child. Friends are very important to him, and their well-being is important to him. But the thing that I'm absolutely delighted that is my child is that I know that I don't have to worry about him. Wherever he is, whoever he is, he will know how to take care of himself, and he will motivate his own self. I feel pretty proud of that.
What would you say to yourself when you were 7, right? When you were in Korea that time, knowing everything that you know? You get a chance to transport yourself now to go and spend a little bit of time with yourself back then. What would you say? What would you do?
Don't worry. This soon shall pass. Don't worry. Things are brighter tomorrow.
And if she tells you, I am worried. I mean, where's my parents? I'm stuck here. It feels like forever.
I think I would say to her that it's not going to be forever. That I would live a very long life, and that a year, 2 years, 3 years is very, very short to a long life that she would live. But I want her to know that she is loved, that she's not forgotten, that somebody thinks about her every day. Yeah. I think in those days, what translated for me, for my mother being away, was we were a burden. My father, mother, they were working so hard because we were the burden, and that they needed to take care of us. The discussion of love that we were important didn't come into the picture. Your children should not be seen and unheard.
My mother would say that all the time.
All the time. That
happened to
children
her.
didn't matter. And they said, what you say
Yep.
don't matter. Just sit and be quiet. I always felt very insignificant. I always felt insignificant that what I did didn't matter. And I think that's why I make such bold decisions and bold actions. And I make sure they're done because what I say matters. And they're, God darn it, it's going to get done. When I say it, it's going to get done. So I'm going to say it and then I'll get it done. It's the kind of thing that I would have loved to hear when I was 7 years old. You're loved, not forgotten, and you matter.
What is something that feels appropriate to share that you haven't shared in other conversations and so on before that would give the people that are meaningful to you a greater context into who you are today?
I've never shared this in public forum. I am not religious, meaning I don't go to church, but I believe in God. And when I came home, that moment that I told you, this is when I grew up, I fell asleep after having eaten all that meat that I always, wanted. I fell asleep in the living room and I woke up in the middle of the night and I was bathed in light. Everything was dark, quiet. I was bathed in light. And there was a moonlight coming straight through the window, and it was like I was on stage. And I was a bit scared, but something in my voice said, don't be scared, it's me. And I went on my knees, and tears were rolling down my eyes. And I put my hand together, and I prayed, Dear God, forgive me. And I fell asleep again. I don't know if it was a dream or not, but I know it happened. And I think of it every day. Then when I went to work for Castle & Cook in the early 90s, I started working for them in January of 1990. And there was a war. Gulf War, yeah. And they said the target was CNN. So the company was sending all the top managers to go to a home building show. 50-some-odd thousand people were expected in Atlanta, Georgia, where CNN is. The people in Hawaii, our top managers decided, I am not going there next to CNN because the convention center is near CNN. We're going to get bombed. And so, no, I'm not going. So a lot of people canceled. So me, the low guy on the totem pole, I got to go to Atlanta, my first business trip. So I was 23, and I went there, and the convention was set up for 50,000 people, but only 20,000 or 10,000 people showed up. It was like very few people, for this huge convention hall. But there was one room just filled with people, like a lot of buzz. And they said it was about affordable housing. So I said, oh yeah, we're in housing, I'm building housing. I want to sit in there. There was no seat. So I had to go all the way to the front, in the front row, and sat there. And there were these 4 or 5 speakers, panelists and 4 speakers. And everyone was talking about affordable housing, and they were like showing beautiful pictures. I'm in California, here's glass blocks that you can do for affordable housing. We're building these beautiful homes, and this is affordable housing, all these things. And then this one guy comes in, he's from Chicago. His name is something McDonald. Like I remember, like McDonald. And he said, all these people are talking about affordable housing, 100,000, 200,000. That's not affordable housing. 300,000? Who would think that's affordable housing? Bam! He shows a picture. It's like this box, a block. There's a little toilet room and a kitchen sink that serves as a sink for the toilet as well as for the kitchen. And he said, this is 500 square feet in Chicago, and everyone can buy this for $20,000. Now this is affordable housing. And everyone's laughing and chuckling and all. They said, people who are on Section 8 housing vouchers, they can buy the affordable housing with the vouchers. This is affordable housing, and no one will evict them. This will be their home. This is what I'm building. I'm listening to him, and then nothing's coming through. I'm hearing buzz, and my hair is rising. My hair is rising on my arms. And then I'm hearing the same buzz that I heard when I was 16, right? I said, don't be afraid. It's me. I'm not kidding. And then tears are welling down my eyes. I don't know why. Everyone's around me and I'm worried someone's looking at me. I have makeup, so I was saying, oh God, don't blink. Tears are welling up. And I'm hearing in my head, "But don't be afraid, it's me." And I'm praying, "Dear God, what do you want me to hear?" I don't know why, but I felt compelled to do that. And it came to me, I am doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. I am building communities, I'm building housing, and whatever I do, it's going to lead me to building affordable housing somewhere, or giving people the courage to do affordable housing, or teaching people how, making good policy, whatever it is. But I heard it. Has not come back to me, and people might say I'm crazy. I think I'm crazy too. But somehow that gave me resolve. And everything I worked at Castle and Cook was affordable housing. And nobody wanted to work on affordable housing projects because they're not fancy. You don't have big budgets. You don't get to do beautiful things. You're working on basic things with a basic budget. And I was happy to do them. And I excelled in it. I won a lot of awards for creativity, creating things that were, affordable. And we had projects that had 3,000 people coming and all that kind of stuff. But everything I do, I'm trying. Hawaiʻi, I won Developer of the Year because I did affordable housing there. But yet I did 20 projects, 19 projects on the West Oahu side, none of them affordable. Why? Because housing is getting built there and affordable housing is getting built there. So what I thought I could do was to build places of excellence. So schools, employment centers, industrial parks, convenience centers, dance studios, things that they don't have. I wanted to bring it there. 19 projects I did in as many years, about 21 years. But I did build rental housing in Hawaiʻi because they needed it. What am I doing in downtown? I'm not building affordable housing in downtown because there's so much affordable housing in downtown, low-income housing. And when you have concentration of low-income housing in one area, what it creates is potential for slums, economic decay. So I want to bring economic vibrancy, market equilibrium, a mix of market and affordable housing. So the next set of housing that I'm going to be bringing in will be a mix of affordable and market, workforce housing. It's going to be a lot of economic drivers, hotels. Why? Because affordable housing to work, the community has to work. I am doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I created a nonprofit called Affordable Hawaii Foundation. Why? Because I'm going to continue to do my work even after my retirement. Because why? Those two instances told me if there's anything, and I might be crazy, this is going to be my life's work.
Have you ever connected the dots to what you're doing now to those key moments in your life?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
because I saw them.
people
I
this.
see them all. I see all of it.
I tell everyone in my office, and I tell policymakers, and I share this story, that I have gone through the depth of poverty. I've been a teenage runaway. I ate one potato a night because I couldn't afford food. I saw my mom raising her children, trying to stay in a school district that she thought the children deserved. I saw my father pass away and how my mom almost bankrupted her, and she continued to pay. 5 years before she died, she paid off the medical bills for my father's death because they were still after her for the medical bills. That happened in the 70s, and she paid like $50 a month or $100 a month. We didn't know until we put her in the nursing home. That's what she was doing.
Wow.
So I saw, and now in my position when I'm developing projects, or I'm giving money to nonprofits, or I'm doing pro bono work to the triage center for the people who are drug addicted, or the foster children for the older youth who can't be placed because they're just hard. I see you. I see them because I walk their walk. My family has done. I see immigrants. I see the FOBs. I was one of them. So, yeah, do I connect the dots? Absolutely. Because when you see these people because you were them, you try to connect the dots for them. The decisions that I make, the projects that I do, the contributions that I make to nonprofits or the nonprofits that I choose to support are done because I see them.
What's something that you wish people would ask you more, but they tend to not?
I don't know. I think everyone asks me so many personal things.
Or people will make a judgment on you. So they're going to ask you a certain line of questioning typically, right? Or this is my hypothesis. And then it's sometimes like, oh, it would be nice if you asked me about this, because this is actually more along lines of what I resonate with.
Oh, I can tell you the pet peeve questions that I used to not like, but I understand why they ask them. Oh, was it hard for you because you're a woman? You know, because you're a woman,
Was it a woman asking?
another woman asking, and I get it. You want to highlight, all the hardships because of all the handicap that you went through, and being a woman may be considered a handicap. But I don't want girls who grow up now who can actually be a scout and not be a Girl Scout, but maybe a scout, right? And be an Eagle Scout if they wanted to. When all those doors are open to them, I don't want them to feel like, woe is me because I'm a woman. I want them to celebrate their feminine aura, who they are. I think I succeeded because I'm a woman. Because maybe people told me I couldn't because I'm a woman. That maybe that's why I said, okay, I'm going to work harder and do what I need to do. Yes, of course. There are people who are not going to open doors for you because you're a woman or give you a harder time or whatever it may be. I know that. But then I also know that everyone has their weakness, right? You may not be able to do something because you didn't go to that school. Or you may not have the doors open to you because you didn't grow up here. You didn't go to high school here. You don't know people. There's a whole lot of things, right? I grew up in Wahiawa. I grew up in Kalihi. I went to Farrington. I'm handicapped. I got ADHD. Everybody has their story. So I don't want people to be stuck in the victim mentality. I want them to celebrate who they are. So, my name when I started my career was Chris. Because, in those days when you wrote letters, right? And I wanted those letters to have oomph to them. Like, I didn't want them to think that they were dealing with a woman. I wanted them to think that they were dealing with a man. It was Chris. So a lot of people who knew me earlier part of my career, it was Chris. But, after about 10 years of doing that, I realized I want to get my name back. I want my femininity back. It's okay to be feminine. It's okay to be petite. It's okay to have long hair. It's okay to wear makeup, It's okay to be who you are. Just work hard. Just have confidence in yourself. Don't get hooked up on this victimhood. So yeah, it might have been harder for me, but there may have been other people who grew up in Mississippi, didn't get the proper education, whatever it may be. I am not going to allow myself to be a victim.
When have you ever experienced being a woman as an advantage?
When you're in a career where majority of the people are men, people remember the woman that was there. So yeah, being one of a few, I use that as an advantage to make sure that people remembered me. Because when they remember me, some people say that 80% of the time it's just showing up. Familiarity allows you to get accepted somehow. And I showed up a lot. And being a woman in these groups of men, and the higher up you went, there were fewer of us, it was an advantage because I stood out in the crowd.
Are there any other, like first generation women-owned real estate development firms here? I can't think of them.
Well, but there are other women-owned developments, like Makani Maeva. I'm a big fan. She's an amazing developer. There are other women developers who are in very high positions. Karen Seddon, who is CEO for EAH Hawaii in Hawaii. She's the president, amazing developer. Kathy Inoue was chief operating officer of Kobayashi Group, and now Alana Kobayashi. They're all women who are doing what people might consider a man's job, but to me, I think that's a woman's job. It's for people who have the tenacity, the courage, the moxie to do something big.
So if you could not be in real estate or finance, right, what would you do?
Anything and everything. I think I would have been a great teacher. I would teach high school, college, middle school. I think that I can make an impact, giving them hope.
Why would you want to teach?
Teaching is an honorable profession that we've forgotten here in America. But I grew up in my early years in Korea, and I knew what impact teachers can make. I think it's honorable to teach, and I think I have a lot of experiences, life experiences. I also think that I've gone through a path that maybe it can resonate with kids who feel that they have no hope. I would like to give hope because hope is that medicine that allows people to prosper.
So will you teach like soon or like after you
Oh, I
retire
didn't
out
tell
of
you
your...
my retirement plan?
No.
I have set a retirement date.
Oh, well, really? Oh, you're going to
So,
retire. Okay.
yes, so I have a retirement date
Yeah.
where January 4th, 2033, I retire. My son would have been hopefully graduated from graduate school. And at that point, I would like to start teaching. I may go to homeless shelters. I may go to foster homes. I may go to high schools, middle schools. I may, just fund those who do teach and sit in and be guest lecturers. But Affordable Hawaii Foundation is that foundation or the venue in which I want to do some work. Yeah.
And then you won't do real estate anymore? Or
I
what?
may. I mean, I would still own properties that I own and manage them. The company, Avalon Development, and anything related to it, all of the companies will be run by the next gen of leaders who are already running the company.
Oh, okay.
So they will run the company. They would own half of the company, and my trust will own the other half. That can help fund the foundation and everything that I need to be doing in my retirement.
Okay. I want to acknowledge you. Christine, you've been a good friend for a long time. I've watched you grow and your journey. It's always been interesting. Our kids are friends. That is really nice and kind of fulfilling for me to experience. And I know you do a lot of good things. You've been a good mentor to my son as well. And yeah, I just appreciate it.
Thank you. And gosh, you got it out of me.
If you resonate with Greater Good Radio, please join our community at www.greatergoodradio.com, where you can get access to exclusive content and offerings. Hope to see you soon.